Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Development Management Committee. First thing I have to say is that those present at this meeting should be aware that by law it can be recorded by anyone attending. This means the meeting can be filmed, audio recorded, photographed or reported electronically by the use of social media. And this does not apply to any part of the meeting that's held in private session. Therefore, anyone present should be aware that they could be recorded at this meeting. Any member of the public who does not wish to be filmed should move away to an area of the meeting room away from the camera. And anyone recording must cease as soon as the meeting is declared closed. Now, tonight, the meeting is being webcast by the council. Does anybody else intend to film? No. Okay, thank you. So item 1, substitutions of members. Everybody's here.
Yes, Chairman, there is one substitution, Councillor Kirsten Holman for Councillor Barbara Fitzsimon.
Right, welcome, thank you. And then apologies from
Barbara Fitzsimon.
Item 3, minutes to confirm as the correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of September. Happy with that? Thank you. Item 4, I have no notification of urgent business and nothing has been withdrawn from the agenda. Item 5, declaration of interest by members.
County Council.
County Council for Paul and County Council for me. Okay, nobody else, thank you. Item 6, 12 Great North Road, Welwyn, erection of 3 5-bedroom detached houses, 1 with double garage and 2 with single garages, and associated parking following the demolition of existing bungalow and outbuildings.
Thank you, Chair. The site is relatively large and consists of a detached single-storey bungalow which is set well back from Great North Road and screened from that road by vegetation. That existing house would be demolished and 3 detached properties would be built. 2 would front Great North Road and 1 would be set behind those 2 front properties. Access would be served via the existing access from Great North Road for all 3 properties and would extend along the side boundary to serve the rear property and garages for the dwellings at the front. The site's located on land which is designated as Greenbelt, where the proposal does not fall within any of the exceptions identified in the framework and would constitute inappropriate development in the Greenbelt, causing harm to the openness, the purposes and the visual amenity of the Greenbelt. Therefore, the development should not be approved except in very special circumstances. The applicant has not put forward any other considerations to outweigh the harm. However, as members are aware, the Council are currently within examination of the emerging local plan. Within that plan, the land to the south of the avenue, which includes the application site, is allocated to be within the settlement of Oaklands and Mardley Heath and not within Greenbelt. Additionally, an area of land to the rear of the site, including part of the application site, is actually allocated for housing under that emerging plan. If adopted, this would make the principle of the development acceptable. However, as it stands, the site is currently within Greenbelt, and to approve the principle of this proposal on this basis would be predetermining an issue that is going to be tested at the forthcoming examination. Therefore, it's considered that this does not outweigh the harm that's been identified. With regard to the proposed layout, this is not characteristic of the locality and would fail to reflect the area's established spacious character, with the dwellings at plots 1 and 2 on smaller plots than neighbouring properties and having minimal space and separation distance to the boundaries of the site and between the properties. Additionally, due to the allocation of the part of the site under the emerging local plan, this development would have the potential to undermine the overall layout of that site. Concerns are also raised with regard to overlooking from first floor windows in the dwelling proposed at plot 3, which is to the rear of the site, to number 3, the avenue, which is at right angles to that proposed dwelling, and to the dwellings proposed at the front of the site. Additionally, the proposed access route, which would be alongside the dwelling at plot 1, would cause noise and disturbance from vehicles accessing the site to the detriment of the residential amenity of the future occupants of plot 1. The site is also close to the A1M and Great North Road. No noise survey or air quality assessment has been submitted, and therefore there is also a lack of information to assess whether a reasonable level of amenity would be provided for all future occupants in this regard. The proposed development would be served by suitable parking provision and would be acceptable with regard to highway safety. Additionally, no objections are raised with regard to tree protection, and the late representation which members have from Hearts Ecology outlines that there are no objections in this regard, but a precautionary approach should be taken for site clearance. Therefore, it's recommended overall that the application is refused for the reasons set out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, questions, comments? Fiona.
Thank you. Can you just clarify? So it talks about an area of the application site to the rear, which is allocated for the housing, which I think you just mentioned, Sarah. But what proportion of the site, please? Do you know?
It's one moment. No, it's literally kind of this bit of the site, so at the very rear. That is being that's forming part of the site that is allocated for housing.
Argues against itself. I do accept that there are concerns about air quality and no studies have been submitted, and I think noise was the other one that was raised. I'm not too sure about the argument about, you know, harming the green belt, because of course if the local plan comes to fruition then it will be removed from the green belt. So
I think it's an interesting point, but not many months ago we looked at a rather larger site in another village, which was entirely going to be in the green belt that was going to be allowed for housing. But we turned that down because it was considered it was preempting the decision of the inspector on indeed whether there would be building in the green belt. So I think we're in the same position here, are we not?
We would be predetermining an issue that's going to be looked at and considered by the inspector in the forthcoming examination.
Terry?
I was just going to ask, under the proposals that may come forward, where would access be to that new site if it was agreed by the inspector? Where would that access be from?
Avenue.
Right, yeah.
It goes down the side.
Yeah, that makes sense.
£1.
Yeah.
Okay. Is 28 High Oaks Road, Welwyn Garden City, erection of detached house with garage, parking area and gazebo within rear garden.
Okay, thanks. Okay. The proposed dwelling, which would be two-storey and detached, is on land which forms part of the side garden of number 28 High Oaks Road, which is located within the central Welwyn Garden City Conservation Area. The surrounding area is residential with a number of detached properties of varying designs. The property would be 4 bedrooms and include a detached garage to the side. Access would be via a new access from High Oaks Road. Due to the size of the plot, which has a wide frontage with High Oaks Road, and the overall width and size of the proposed dwelling, there is considered adequate space for this dwelling to be sited in this location without disrupting the overall pattern of development found along this road. This is not dissimilar to the adjoining property, number 30, where part of that plot was developed for a house in the 1990s. The proposed house would be designed externally like a traditional garden city house, which would be similar to the adjoining properties and relate well to the conservation area. The front of the site would retain hedgerows and soft landscaping, which would maintain the ethos of the garden city, and such landscaping is important to the success of any development in this location. With regard to neighbour amenity, the proposed dwelling would be sited approximately 14 metres from number 30 and 17 metres from number 28. The property would be sited on land which is higher than number 30 due to the topography of High Oaks Road. As a result of the siting, the design and size of the proposed dwelling, the residential amenity of occupiers of the adjoining dwellings is considered acceptable and would not have a detrimental impact, with conditions being suggested to ensure first floor windows are obscure glazed and vegetation is retained along the southern boundary. Additionally, sufficient parking would be provided on the site in the form of a garage and hard standing, and access for the site is acceptable. The proposal also retains key trees on site, and the arboricultural report provides tree protection measures which are considered sufficient. Therefore, it's recommended that approval is granted, subject to the conditions suggested and including an additional condition concerning elevations and details of the timber shed and greenhouse to be submitted and approved, alterations to condition 11 to provide further clarity and be more precise, which is recommended to be altered to the existing mixed trees along the southern boundary of the application site as shown on drawing number 5290201F shall be retained and maintained at a height of no less than 4 metres and shall not be removed. Within that reason, with that reason, for that condition, it also needs to include policy D1 of the district plan and the supplementary design guide. Also, the removal of the drawing planting plan from condition 12, which refers to the approved plans, shouldn't be there as it's not been updated to reflect amended plans that have been received. And the revision number G and F is also recommended to be removed from condition 12 as those revision numbers are included in the plan number. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Now we have public speaking on this one tonight, and usual rules apply, which is that each speaker gets 3 minutes, and after 2.5 minutes I shall shout out half a minute, and then after 3 minutes you cease speaking. So the first speaker is Anthony Nichols, who is the applicant, please.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Nicholas, and together with Christine Nicholas, we are the joint owners of number 28 High Oaks Road. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. From the beginning of this project, we were encouraged by the planning officer's view that they could support the principle of an additional dwelling on this site. However, they felt that design considerations were going to be paramount, and that has certainly proved to be the case. We have worked through various design options with your planning officers, a process that has led us to the proposals before you this evening. We are delighted with the result, and in our view, the size and design of the dwelling is in keeping with the character of the area, respects the features of the site, and will fit in well with the street scene. Our neighbours at number 30 have objected to the development and have canvassed others to join them, which of course they are entitled to do. However, as will be seen at paragraph 19.17 of the officer's report, our neighbours did exactly the same themselves several years ago. So with our application, we are asking to be allowed to develop our property in the same manner as our neighbours, with a dwelling that has been carefully designed to complement the existing houses in High Oaks Road. Thank you for your kind attention.
Is Paul Roberts, who is an objector.
Thank you. I'm not that neighbour. My name is Paul Roberts. I'm a Chartered Town Planner. I'm the chairman of the Welwyn Garden City Centenary Foundation. I was recently the joint author of the republication of Louis de Soissons' book, Site Planning in Practice, and I live at de Soissons Place, which is 21 High Oaks Road, Louis de Soissons' house. So I know a little bit about it. Three things that I just wanted to mention about this. This is the third application on this site. For a single house, that tells you something when you get a third application. Louis de Soissons was an incredibly careful man. He designed all houses in small groups together. He designed his house with a gap opposite. He designed the house below it to look south and the house to the north. Nothing he did was ever by chance. That part of High Oaks Road is a compression. On the right-hand side of High Oaks Road, there's a hedge at 21, there's a hedge at 28. It's the same as Delcott, where you have a hedge that goes through. This was his plan. He organized in a very specific way. The fact there's a gap there was because he put a gap there to maintain a gap there, to maintain the street pattern. The house built to the south is a precedent. A precedent is an example of what you see in the future. It's a bad precedent. It's the worst house in High Oaks Road when you look at it from a design perspective. The principle, therefore, is this essentially tears up one of the most significant points of Louis de Soissons' plan in that part of Welwyn Garden City. I think that is harm to the conservation area in terms of what it does. The second thing is the principle of development goes to the heart of the second issue. Where you have a scheme coming forward which requires people to maintain conifers at 4 metres over the longer term and has obscure glazing in the upper floors, doesn't that tell you something about this application? That it's being squeezed to fit an inappropriate site in contradiction of an original emerging plan. This part of Welwyn Garden City is very special. Louis de Soissons would be horrified if he was here tonight to think there was such a glib assessment that 2 spaces he left in his set piece are being contemplated for development, and 3 houses, 28, the new house, and 30 will be compromised by this scheme, which will lead to conflict in the future. It's a very simple issue. You have a house which is south-facing with a 4-metre high conifer to the south. You will want to cut it down at some point. This is going to lead to conflict. This is a very special part of Welwyn Garden City, and this proposal is not special at all. Thank you.
Thank you. As has been stated in the papers, High Oaks Road has many large plots, all with dwellings of different designs, amongst trees, hedges and lawns. This particular stretch of road is characterised by the large hedge in the application area, which nicely balances the side of the road to Dognall Green opposite, maintaining this green open garden feel. Indeed, the Council's own conservation officer highlighted that this hedge is an important feature of the site and that any loss of this would be harmful to the area. They preferred, though only as a lesser of evils in 9.15, a shared access with number 28. This application does not do that. Therefore, this application would be harmful to the area and thus goes against the National Policy Planning Framework, NPPF Section 12, of enhancing the historic environment of a conservation area. The proposed dwelling would be visible from the road, unlike number 28, the applicant's house, which is not. This again is in contravention of NPPF Section 12. The nearest residents to the application site, number 30, have enjoyed the privacy of this stretch of road and the large distance from their neighbours at number 28, which this application, if allowed by this committee, destroys. This windfall or garden grabbing will mean that the privacy enjoyed for many decades will be lost forever. Even with the maintaining of the boundary hedge between the two properties, the new dwelling will be significantly closer to number 30 than number 28 and will impact enormously on the amenity value so highly valued by the current residents. In fact, the proposed dwelling will be significantly higher than number 30 by some 3.4 metres in 9.28, but much lower to the applicant's house, as well as being closer to number 30 as previously stated. All of these factors, as well as windows with or without obscured glass, will adversely affect those living at number 30. According to the officer report, there are no habitable windows which may be overlooked, but indeed there are. These habitable rooms with windows are used almost constantly every day, and as soon as the residents step out into their garden, they will be easily overlooked. The privacy of the residents will be compromised. This application is harmful to the existing residents of the neighbouring property. Again, a reason for refusal. Indeed, officers have taken note of this, and rather than the usual 1.8 metres of screening, they suggest the 4 whole metres to provide an effective privacy screen. And as previously said, that's 4 metres in height, not in width. If such a hedge is maintained, this will lead to even more loss of light to a fully used area of outside space. Yet again, the applicant at number 28 has no such worries, as there is no habitable windows facing his property. Officers also discussed placing restrictions on the removal of existing trees within the application site. These trees will severely limit the amount of light to the family room of the new property, and it is unlikely they will be retained by any occupier. To end, I suggest that this application does not comply with Policy D1 of the Welwyn Hatfield District Plan 2005, nor MPPF Section 12, as it does not maintain the residential amenity of the existing occupants and is harmful to the historic environment of a conservation area. Therefore, it should not be considered as acceptable by this committee. Thank you.
With the requirement to maintain a 4-metre hedge. Maintaining hedges is hard enough as it is, and a 4-metre hedge takes some maintaining. And you've got to be up a large ladder to do that. And I suppose there is a risk then that the hedge gets away from the householder and then becomes a series of small trees which become larger and larger. Comments, questions? Fiona?
Thank you. I know this site very well. It's in my ward, and actually I know this road very well because I walk it most days with my dog, and it's up a hill. It's difficult to see from the report, and unless you've been out to see it on site, because number 30 is sort of a side-on house, actually the impact would be greater than one might think just from listening to the report. Several important points have been raised. So obviously this is the third application, and that would suggest that obviously it's not straightforward, but that should give rise for some concern. I know it's always difficult when you have two neighbours who have differing views, and actually in the past Helen and I have supported Mr Nichols with an application from a third party in the past. But in this instance, I think it's important to remember that, you know, as per the officer's report, this is one of the most significant roads in Welwyn Garden City Conservation Area. And actually it is, and it is characterised by large houses on large plots. And I think that would definitely be destroyed, and it would impact on the character of this important area. I know people, that there's the precedent of the previous windfall development. That's not to say that was a good idea. And actually, given the way that they are set out on the site, it's not as obvious, the one further down from number 30. So I think you have to take it in the context of where it's located. I think it would harm the amenity value of the area. This is an important road. You know, the conservation officer themselves raised concerns about it. And as I say, third application, there have been 16 objections by neighbours. It's out of character, it's out of context of the area. And I think the obscure glazing requirement is something to be taken into account. That actually means there is an issue. And for this area, relatively large houses on large plots, it would be wrong to impose that, and to have to impose that means there's something wrong with the design. Thank you.
Okay. 2 points there. Overall, the conservation officer is content. Is that the case?
That is right.
He raised a few concerns which are outlined within the report at paragraph 8.1, but he also outlines that the house is a traditional pitched roof design and has no objections to that. He had an issue with the overall size of the garage, but amendments have been made, so the height has actually been reduced with that as well.
Okay, and Fiona suggested that the house was out of context with the area, but the house, the design of the house is okay, is it not? It is the position on the plot, the use of the plot for the house, which is the problem.
Yes, Chair, and when it would be viewed from the road,
Yes.
it would look odd. That's the only way I can describe
But
it.
the design of the house is what?
That's in keeping. I mean, High Oaks is composed of houses of very differing designs.
Yes, yes.
And
it
that
is.
was deliberate.
Yes.
But I think it's important to remember the openness and the character, and that's what's at risk here of being destroyed.
Okay, third point. Will this have to go to the EMS scheme?
Yes, there is an estate management application in as well,
Yeah.
and it's still under consideration.
Right, okay. Cherry was yours next. Is it? Oh, flashing, sorry.
Right.
Irene,
Is
sorry.
it me? Right, can you just clarify, 9.17, in 1988, number 30 got permission to put another house in their garden, is that correct? So, did that house become 30A? Is that the house that is 30A?
I presume it is.
So it is. So they put a house in their garden, so that makes it 30A. So I can't understand why the problem is with this one, because it would be exactly the same. That would have to be, and this one is what, 30, what? 30,
This is 28.
28, so it would be 28A. It would have to be 28A if it's in the same,
Presumably in due course,
boundaries.
subject to street naming and numbering.
yeah, so it's exactly the same sort of position. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just got a couple of questions for the officers. The first one I just heard from one of the objector with regards to the relevant planning history. Now, I believe this site was, was been put for a couple of times in the past, but I believe it's not been refused, it's been withdrawn, isn't it? So,
That is correct. They've been withdrawn, and it wasn't. The officers have worked with the applicant to try and get a scheme that is acceptable, and they were being withdrawn to ensure that a satisfactory standard of design is achieved. It was never because the principle wasn't accepted.
thank you. The second one, I was just listening to the ward member, and I think I just picked up one of the point with regards to the window in the habitat room. Is that something obscuring the privacy or anything, or is that something being taken care of? I think it just says, are there any privacy issue or anything in the next door garden or anything? What?
Sorry, can I just confirm that you're asking about number 30? Or are you asking about the actual proposed dwelling?
I just picked up from one of the objectors. It says there was a habitat room which has a window, and if that can, is it number 30 or is it? Number 30, I believe so, yeah, I think so.
I have a site layout plan of number 30, so I can
Okay.
put that up. So this is the elevation here that is going to look towards, or looks towards the application site. So at ground floor, you've got a utility room, together with a boiler room and a study, but the study is blocked by an existing garage, and it also has a window at the rear. At first floor level, you've got a corridor with 3 windows looking out of that corridor, together with 2 bedrooms on the wing. The main windows of those 2 bedrooms look towards the front and rear of the property, although there are secondary windows serving those bedrooms that look towards the application site.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Question for the officers. I was very interested by the points made about the consideration of Louis de Soissons' original vision for this street. Now, was any consideration given by the officers, bearing in mind we're about to celebrate the centenary of Welwyn Garden City, to the fact that they are going to be departing a long way from that original Louis de Soissons vision?
High Oaks Road has a variety of properties within it. They consist of a traditional Welwyn Garden City property together with 1920s, 1930s style bungalows and Art Deco properties. Within the conservation appraisal that the council have, it actually outlines for High Oaks Road that individuals built their own houses in this road, lying along the western edge of the conservation area in which the plots were sold off. This accounts for the wider variety of styles compared with other roads in Welwyn Garden City. So therefore, this property has taken on a more traditional design and appearance of property, but having its own individual character. So therefore, yes, it has taken into account the style, the design, the layout of this road.
So if I may come back on just something Irene raised, if you look at the plan on page 39, you can actually see how it would impact on the plot size. So I know Irene said, well, look, number 30 had an infill, but actually you can see outlined in red is the proposed site. Underneath that is number 30. Underneath that is 30A. So actually 30 was originally a much, much larger site. I don't know if that makes it clearer for members. So actually what you are doing is splitting, obviously, where the red line outlined area is, and the house above it, which is 28. So that was a large plot, which is now being halved. So I wasn't sure that members were aware of the context. And this is what it's about. I think it's about the context of the proposed dwelling in this location. And that's the issue.
We heard earlier about the importance of the space created by the size of the plot within the road. And by building on it, you will actually be losing the space that was originally created in the road. How important is that?
Clearly spacing is important. However, the amount of space that is to the side, number 30 is 13 metres, to number 28 it's 14 metres, plus the fact that number 28 is pushed back quite considerably. The way the house has been designed has got quite a narrow frontage, ensuring that that space is maintained to a sufficient degree.
Okay, so there's enough space, right. No,
Thank you, Chair. Members may recall that the committee determined an application for a new dwelling at this site at the meeting in May this year. The committee granted planning permission on that occasion following a call-in from Hatfield Town Council, who objected to the application on the basis of overdevelopment and loss of car parking. The principle of a new dwelling in this location is established and the permitted dwelling could be constructed. The application before the committee this evening is different in that it proposes a new dwelling, albeit larger, and a single-storey rear extension to the donor property, number 58. In effect, what the council is being asked to consider is a part two-storey, part single-storey rear extension to the approved new dwelling, albeit it has not yet been constructed. Hatfield Town Council has objected to this new application as they consider the size, mass and bulk to be overdevelopment of the site and out of character with the existing street scene. The Town Council has also raised the issues of houses in multiple occupation. It is noted in the officer report that, should permission be granted and the dwelling constructed, this would be the largest property along this part of Heron Way. However, it is considered that the two-storey rear extension would not be highly visible from the public vantage points, and, having regard to the very shallow pitch of the roof of this and the neighbouring dwellings, has been designed in such a way as to reduce the overall bulk of the building. The spacing around the building is found to be acceptable, as is the relationship that would result with neighbouring dwellings. In terms of car parking, the number of bedrooms remains at 3, and the off-road parking provision of 2 spaces accords with the council's requirements. Finally, members will note recommended condition 5, which would restrict the use of the property to a single-family dwelling house. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. No speakers on this one. Important thing here is that there is already an extant permission for a dwelling, and this is to add a bit more to the size, in effect. Questions, comments? Materials are going to be the same as in the road.
That's correct. Materials to match the existing dwelling.
Parking meets with our standards. Nobody wants to say anything? Irene. Irene, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Could I? Is it on?
Yes, you're on. Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? When we had a planning meeting, we said that anybody that called it in had to attend the meeting. Hatfield Town Council are objecting to most things, but they never turn up to object. So we all said that if they didn't turn up, we couldn't consider it. So maybe that should be pointed out to them.
I think we will be toughening up the situation with what parish councils and town councils say. I'm not sure we will get to the situation where if they object to it, we can say we won't consider it. But it is deemed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. To put Irene's mind at rest, James usually attends every planning meeting where it becomes part of the town council, but on 8.2, Kieran, John and James haven't have made no response to it, so we can follow it through. And the question I had, if they keep on adding to it, will this be in excess of the footprint? Because we can, when we look at the extensions on houses, they can't go over a certain percentage of the footprint. If they keep on adding, at the end of... Oh, only Greenbelt. Okay, thanks for your advice. Thanks. Yeah.
Right, appeal decisions. Anything to say on appeal decisions? Oh yes, wood green timber. You will see the so they lost their appeal on their big racking with a roof on it, although they have been given longer to comply than we originally wanted, but at least it will be going due course. Okay, then item number 10 is future planning applications, which remain much as last time. Any comments on that? No? Right, then we have no other business. And we'll finish the meeting. Thank you.